Om Shri Sairam. We'll start the program in 2 minutes. For those of you who are in the hallway or in the rec room, if you can please make your way into the hall and we'll get started. Thank you, Sairam. offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dear Lord Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Respected elders, sisters and brothers, Om Shri Sai Ram. On behalf of our president, Uncle Sudhakar Vora, the executive team and trustees, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. It's been 2 long years since we last had a major program here in person at the center, and also since most of us saw each other, spoke to each other, or connected with each other. Outside of Zoom, that is. Some of us, myself included, have been Zoom fatigued for over a year, maybe 2 years. And I'll say personally, I haven't been able to connect as well through virtual programs as I could any day in person here. It's just not the same when you don't have the vibrations of your Sai family sitting around you to connect to Swami himself. So whether it's been a while since you've connected online or connected in person, let's take the time today. Everybody take a deep breath. Because I feel like there's a little tension in the room. Everyone's a little nervous. Everyone's a little bit unsure. Like, how am I supposed to sit? My legs are already tired. It's been 5 minutes. Like, everybody take a deep breath. If you need to stretch your legs or like just shift your legs, do that, right? And get ready for a really great hour ahead. We already had a wonderful morning program starting with Suprabhatam, and let's give a round of applause to our devotion team for such a beautiful start to the day. And sisters and brothers, I'm really excited to welcome one of my best friends and dearest brothers, Rishi Thanawala, to the center today. So I first met Rishi in 2016 in Prashanti Nilayam, when we were both completing the Sathya Sai International Youth Leadership Program prior to the World Youth Festival. And when we first met, I was amazed and inspired for his passion of bhajans. But what really blew my mind was when I found out he had essentially created like a miniature Sai Kulwant hall down to the detail of the elephants and the ceiling patterns and the dome and everything sculpted in the prayer room of his home. That and the fact that every single year he conducts an Akhan Bhajan for his birthday. And every year that Akhan Bhajan gets 1 hour longer based on what age he's turning. I've never heard of somebody who does that, but it just shows that devotion, dedication, passion for bhajans, but love for Swami that this individual has. And that Akhan Bhajan is one of the biggest events in the East Coast USA centered out of New Jersey every year for all the Sai devotees in the community. Rishi Thanawala is fortunate to be born into a family that has been devoted to Swami for more than 55 years. You all probably read his bio in the bulletin, but I'll really highlight a few points. He has an undergraduate degree in biology and music and is currently pursuing an MBA. In the Sai community, Rishi has been a bhajan or music coordinator basically at every single level imaginable, led young adult musical offerings in Prashanti Nilayam, led the coordination of a lot of the musical offerings with SSIO virtually over the last 2 years. And he's currently serving as the Deputy International Young Adults Coordinator of the SSSIO. We added an S. I'm not used to it. As well as the Vice President of the Sri Sathya Sai Center of Jersey City. Rishi's life's greatest passion is Sai Bhajans, and we'll be experiencing that this morning. He has composed around 150 bhajans himself since his early childhood, leading many to lovingly dub him as the Prince of Bhajans. So without further ado, sisters and brothers, please join me in welcoming Brother Rishi Thanawala.
Mukam karoti vachalam Panghum Landhayate Girim Yakrupatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam 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 Bhajaman Raghava Rama He Bhajaman Raghava Rama Rama Bhajaman Raghava He Rama Bhajaman Sai Ram He Rama Bhajaman Sai Ram Bhajaman Madhava Krishna He Bhajaman Madhava Krishna Krishna He Krishna Bhajaman Sai Sham Bhajaman Sundar Baba He Bhajaman Sundar Baba Baba He Baba Bhajaman Sai Ram He Baba Bhajaman Sai Ram Bhajaman Raghava Rama He Bhajaman Raghava Rama Rama He Rama Bhajaman Sai Ram Bhajaman Madhava Krishna He Bhajaman Madhava Krishna Krishna Bhajaman Sundar Baba He Bhajaman Sundar Baba Baba He Rama Bhajaman Sai Ram He Krishna Bhajaman Sai Sham He Baba Bhajaman Sai Ram Bhajaman Raghava Rama He Bhajaman Raghava Rama I offer myself at the divine lotus feet of my Guru, God and best friend, Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, loving Sai Rams, respected elders, and my dear brothers and sisters. Thank you so much to the center officers and the Sai young adults of the Torontoyorksai Center for such a loving and warm welcome. At the outset, I'd like to thank the officers for this beautiful opportunity, Brother Amar, Sister Selene, and Sister Sai Amrita Kaul for hosting me as well. So today is one of the most difficult days that many of us have encountered as devotees on the path of Shri Sathya Sai Baba. The beautiful form that this earth was blessed to see for 85 years merged into the infinite reality on this day and permanently into the innermost recessive of our hearts. But, for me personally, it was a very difficult time, and this day always brings back, very sad memories, and getting through this day in one piece is not always the easiest every year. But on the brighter side, In American parlance, we write our dates month first, followed by the date. So today's date would be written as 4/24. Now, in one of his discourses, Swami said that love is a two-way street. It is back and forth, give and take. Of course, with Swami, we have unconditional love. But if you take this number 2 and the number 4/24, 4/24 divided by 2, this 2 ways of this road of love that we have between us and Swami, 4/24 divided by 2 is 212. And from April 24th, we are exactly 212 days away from Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba's birthday, which is November 23rd. And so, on this day, yes, it is a remorseful, a very sad day. And I think it is important for all of us to acknowledge that, yes, Swami, in his divinity, is fully infinite. He is a paripurna parabrahma sachidananda swarupa. But the opportunity to miss God is something that very few people are blessed with. This feeling of viraha that we call it in the Navarasas and Indian art forms, this feeling of viraha, of this missing God, is in fact in itself such a beautiful feeling that it brings us closer to Him. And it is in that true longing that we find His presence in all of our hearts. I'd like to start today's satsang with a song that my dear brother, Siddharth Sai Shivakumar, who is a wonderful harmonium player, and he's composed many of the bhajans with me. Myself, and a few friends had composed this bhajan back in December of 2012. It was during winter break, and we were all on Google Hangouts as the time was in vogue. I think Zoom didn't exist back then. And so we had composed this song. It's somewhat in Hindi, a little bit in English, and I would like to structure today's satsang around one of the stanzas of this song. The song starts out by declaring to Swami, Sai mera, main hu tera. Sai, I am yours and you are mine. Sai mera, main hu tera. Jeevan sahara. Sai, Sai, sakal jagat ke data. साई सर्वजनों के माता सत्यनारायण साईश्वर है सत्यनारायण साईश्वर राधे श्यामा हे मथुरा नगर विहारा हे गोपी मन संचारा हे साई कन्हैया साई बाबा हे पुट्टपर्ती वासा हे प्रशांति निलया नाथा मेरे साई कन्हैया साई मेरा मैं हूँ तेरा जीवन सहारा साई. Forever in my hands, your word will always be. Forever in my hands, your word will always be. Forever in my eyes, your form will always be. Forever in my eyes, your form will always be. Forever on my lips, your name will always be. Forever on my lips, your name will always be. Forever in my heart, your love will always be. Sai, forever by my side, you will always reside. Bhagawan, Bhagawan. राधे श्यामा हे मथुरा नगर विहारा हे गोपी मन संचारा हे साई कन्हैया साई बाबा भक्तों के पालनहारा भक्तों के हृदय विहारा भक्तों के साई प्यारा साई मेरा साई मेरा साई मेरा साई मेरा साई मेरा मैं हूँ तेरा जीवन सहारा साई जीवन सहारा साई जीवन सहारा साई जीवन सहारा साई. So the English part of the song goes, forever in my hands your work will always be. Forever in my eyes your form will always be. Forever on my lips your name will always be. And forever in my heart your love will always be. Swami's work, his beautiful form, his sweet name, and his infinite love is what has brought us all here together on a Sunday morning. I'd like to walk you through a little bit of my journey through these 4 steps in my relationship with Swami. When we think about forever in my hands, your work will always be. The first axiom that comes to mind is, you do my work, I will do your work. And this is a quote of Swami that we repeat almost like robots, and we don't really realize the significance of this quote. There have been a few instances in my life where Swami has made me realize the truth behind this statement, that when we do Swami's work, he truly does our work. Just this last fall, I was a bit unsatisfied with my current job, and I was in the job market looking for other scientist opportunities. And at my company itself, there was a position open for a supervisor role. And so I thought, there's no way that I'm getting this. Let me just apply externally to other senior scientist roles, which was my current role at the time. And somebody in my company encouraged me to apply for this supervisor role. And I thought, you know what, let me just apply. If I get the interview, at least I won't have to travel anywhere. I can just go to work that day, do this interview as like a practice for the other interviews that I would be having. And so with that mindset, I applied for the supervisor role. And I had my interview, and I thought I completely blew it. And there was no chance I was going to get the position. This was around mid-October. And then we had the global Akhanda Bhajans, for which I traveled to Atlanta, Georgia, to attend the Akhanda Bhajan there. And I flew down, and just the day that I was flying out, I get a call from Brother Devish Stankaria, who was the International Young Adults Coordinator at the time. I had actually called him to step down as the co-lead of the Ocean of Music Subcommittee, because I just started doing my MBA part-time while I was working, and so I thought, let me take a step back in the SSSIO so that I have more time to focus on my career and my academics. And so I called him, and he was returning my call. And so he called me, and I'm like, hey bro, I'm just on the way to the airport, and we exchanged a few pleasantries, and I told him, like, hey bro, I'd like to step down, and he heard me out for a couple of minutes, and he's like, I have something else up my sleeve. And I'm like, what? And he's like, would you like to serve as the next Deputy International Young Adults Coordinator? And I completely blew it off. I thought he was completely kidding. And he had to bring me to my senses, thinking, no, I thought of this independently, and Dr. Reddy, also, the chairman of the SSSIO, also thought of this independently, and we were speaking on a phone call discussing potential names, and both of us independently mentioned your name. We feel like this is Swami's will, that you should take on this responsibility. And I still thought he was completely joking, and I blew it off. But then he was like, you're going for Akhanda Bhajans, use those 24 hours to really think about it. And so completely forgot. I get there, Friday evening, and I'm helping them with set up the sound system and the bhajan lists and things. And then I completely forgot about this. And then bhajans start. It's 4 a.m. at night. I'm playing tabla, sweating, and my hands are really hurting. Like literally, there was very few tabla players, so my fingers started aching like anything. And in that moment, it was around 4 o'clock, and I thought to Swami, like, should I actually do this? Do I have the bandwidth and capacity? As you know, like Swami says, the 4 A's: availability, affability, ability, and I'm forgetting the fourth one. Accountability. So yeah, some people say there's 3 too, right? And I'm like, do I really have what it takes to take on this role? And suddenly, a small little piece of golden confetti comes and falls on my right knee. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should do this. And so I come back on Monday evening and I call Devi saying like, hey bro, I had a chance to think about it, and if the opportunity's there, I'd like to serve Swami in this capacity. And he's like, great, and we'll schedule a call, the doctor ready, and get things moving. The very next, so I'd taken Monday off because of course once you're hungover after 24 hours of nonstop bhajans, you really can't go to work on Monday. So I go to work on Tuesday, and around lunchtime I get a call from HR, which caught me off guard. And HR was like, hey, we'd like to discuss the application that you had put in for the supervisor role. And as soon as they mentioned, I'm like, yep, this is my rejection call. And they're like, we'd like to offer you the role as supervisor of bioanalysis. And I was completely shocked because the next supervisor was like 10 years older than me, and I had no idea that, I would be considered fit for the role. But look at Swami's hand in this. When I said yes to doing his work, he did my work in my career. When we say yes to serving Swami, he is always there to fulfill all our wishes and all our desires. We may or may not realize it, but every pure desire that we have to worship him and to love him is always fulfilled. What better example of serving and doing God's work other than Lord Hanuman himself? As Brother Amar mentioned, my family on my father's side came to Swami in 1966. My mother came from a Gujarati Vaishnavite family, and they are very rigid in their thinking. They worship Krishna, and Krishna is the end-all and be-all of everything. And so she had come from this mindset, marrying into a family that was devoted to Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And so she had initially doubted Swami's divinity, and she started learning bhajans, particularly the Krishna bhajans. And whenever Sai would be there in the line, she would replace it with Shyama or Krishna or some other name. And so it was quite a difficult time, but slowly, she started reading Swami's literature and got familiar with his teachings and started getting interested. But one person very familiar to my mother, always from her childhood, was Lord Hanuman. And she would always chant Hanuman Chalisa. And in 1990, we had the 65-feet statue of Lord Hanuman inaugurated by Swami on the occasion of his 65th birthday in the Sri Sathya Sai Vidyagiri Hillview Stadium. And in 1991, my mother and my eldest sister had traveled to Parthi to try to have my eldest sister matriculate in the primary school. It didn't work out for various reasons, but at that time, it was she was forced by my father's side to go and try to matriculate my sister there, and it was a little tough for the family because, again, my mom was not completely devoted to Swami, as her Lord and Savior, and she didn't want to send off her daughter to this unknown village in South India to study. But one figure that was very familiar to her was Lord Hanuman. And so at that time, the ashram was not as guarded as it is today, and my mom climbs up the hill to the feet of the statue of Lord Hanuman. And she wonders right there, and she prays to Hanuman saying, and it's a bright, sunny day in the hot Indian summer in the month of April, and she prays to Hanuman saying, if this Sathya Sai Baba is God, let a drop of water fall in my hands right now. And within a few seconds, a giant drop of water fell in her hands. And in that moment, she knew that Swami was God. And it is that love and that devotion that was instilled in her on that day is what has brought me into Swami's fold. And so by then I had, my two eldest sisters, elder sisters were born by then. And in 1995, my mother was pregnant with me. And she was, during the pregnancy, she visualized Lord Hanuman a lot, and she would constantly chant Hanuman Chalisa during the pregnancy. And by now, she had become fully devoted to Swami. And so she prayed to Swami that during the pregnancy that, whoever is born, she prayed to Lord Hanuman that, just as you were a devotee of Rama, let whatever child is born to me, let him be a servant, a devotee of Shri Sathya Sai Baba. And she wanted to have this child as an offering to Swami. And so she would constantly chant Hanuman Chalisa in leading up to my birth during the pregnancy. And as coincidence would have it, while this was going on in the United States, halfway around the world in India, the Sai devotees from Madurai, from the Shri Sathya Sai Paduka Trust, were planning a grand offering for Swami's 70th birthday that year of writing 700 crores times Om Shri Sai Ram Likhita Japam by all the devotees, depositing them in a vault in front of Sai Kulwant Hall, and then installing a statue of Hanuman on top of that vault. And so these plans were being made, and Radio Sai actually just published a video about this in their Prashanti Chronicles series. And so meanwhile, this was going on in Prashanti, and they were preparing to install the statue of Lord Hanuman. And I actually just came to know about this, a couple weeks ago when I saw this video. And Swami had announced in advance that the statue of Hanuman and the vault will be installed on August 31st, 1995. And on that day, the installation was done. All the books were, the Likhita Japam books were deposited. The statue of Hanuman was placed on top, and that statue, which is still there outside the Sai Kulwant Hall, is Hanuman playing the kartals, and he's singing bhajans. And on that day, when Swami installed that statue, he named that statue the Bhajan Hanuman. And he said on that day that I am gifting this Bhajan Hanuman to the entire world on August 31st, 1995. Lo and behold, I was born on that same exact day in the United States. And so bhajans became such an integral part in my life. And this connection with Hanuman was so uncanny because I was born with congenital heart defects. I had to undergo open heart surgery as a 3-day-old child, and on the backside they had done the surgery to fix my aorta artery. And though I am not Brahmin by birth, the scar on my back exactly aligns where if I were Brahmin, if I were wearing the Yagnopavitam would line up exactly with that scar, just as Lord Hanuman does. And then when I was 8 months old, the second surgery was done from the front side to fix a hole in the heart. And as a 2-3-year-old child, when I started noticing the scar going down my chest, I would ask my mother, what is this? Why do I have this line here? What does it mean? And what do you really explain to a 3-year-old child about a complex medical procedure? And so my mom got this picture of Hanuman where he's ripping his chest apart. And he has Lord Rama, Mother Sita, Lakshmana inside, and he's showing that. And so my mom, the simplest explanation she could give me was, just as Hanuman is ripping apart his chest and is showing Rama, Sita, Lakshmana inside, you too opened your chest and you have Swami inside in your heart. And the first memories that I have of my conversations with my mother, of course, I wasn't speaking full sentences, but she would ask me in Gujarati, whose work did Hanuman do? And I wouldn't answer. And then she would just say, he did Rama's work. And then she would say, whose work will Rishi do? And in my little baby voice, I would say, Baba. And so from that early age, my mother instilled this constant companionship between me and Swami, for which I am ever grateful, and has now allowed me with the motivation and the zeal to do his work. And so that is my take on forever doing Swami's work. Then we talk about Swami's beautiful form. Forever in my eyes, your form will always be. And yes, though on this day 11 years ago we lost that divine form, which other avatar in the history of humanity has been recorded, audio, video, high definition photos, that we can literally recreate Swami's presence in the digital world? We are so fortunate that we are contemporaries of the Sai avatar. And so because I had these cardiac complications, my parents could not take me to Parthi as a very young child, but with Swami's grace, I fully recovered and lived a completely normal life, completely normal childhood without any limitations, because he is the one who saved my life. In fact, when they had done that surgery at 8 months old, I was a very naughty, playful child, and my mom had brought vibhuti to the hospital in an orange vitamin bottle, specifically because she knew I was naughty, and those vitamin medicine bottles have a child-safe lock on them so that a child can't open the bottle. So she had brought vibhuti to the hospital specifically in this so that I wouldn't open it. But she came when I was in the incubator right before the operation. I saw the orange bottle in her hand, grabbed it out of her hands, and somehow managed to open the bottle. And as my parents narrate, all the vibhuti in that bottle fell on my heart in the shape of Omkar. And so that connection with Omkar, that connection with sound and singing bhajans has always been such an integral part in my life. So fast forward to 2003 was the first time I had the opportunity to see Swami in person. It was Christmas, and by then Swami had already had his hip fracture and was coming for darshan in the car. And just that year, just 1 month prior for Swami's birthday, they had some, at our center celebration, they had some speeches by SSC students, and I was chosen to be one of them, and I'd given like a short 5-minute talk. And then there was a guest speaker, I forget who it was, but they were talking about how when we are in Swami's presence, we cry tears of joy. And as an 8-year-old child, I had a very hard time understanding what it meant to cry tears of joy, because as a child, crying is always associated with a negative, sad emotion. And I thought, what does this mean, crying tears of joy? Like, it was such a foreign concept as an 8-year-old child. But on December 20th, 2003, when I sat in Sai Kulwant Hall and the Veda chanting started, Om Garnana, and the chandeliers immediately turned on, and Swami's red car, Benz, came into Sai Kulwant Hall with the chandeliers glistening on the windshield. And slowly through those reflections, you could see his black halo of hair and the orange flame behind the window. It was in that moment I realized what it meant to cry tears of joy. That feeling of seeing him in person was so inexplicable, because this is somebody who I had seen in pictures and videos for 8 years by then, and come to recognize this person as someone we just worship. And you know, I'm so grateful to Swami, because there was never a point up until then, or up until now even, that I ever questioned whether Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was the only concrete truth that I have ever known and I ever will know. And one time when I was recollecting this beautiful memory of seeing Swami in person, I called my friend, Brother Siddharth, and we wanted to compose a bhajan that would describe the beauty of Swami's various attributes. And so he came up with a beautiful tune and some words, and we worked together to write this bhajan that I'd like to share with all of you, that describes the royalty of Swami. Though he is so simple, when we meditate on any form of divinity, if you want to meditate on Krishna, you have to imagine the peacock feather and the jewels and the Kaustubha Mani on his chest, and so much paraphernalia, the yellow pitambar and his kamarband, and so much paraphernalia. But when we visualize Swami, it is the easiest vision to recreate in our mind's eyes. The black hair, the halo of black hair, the crown, his beautiful smile, his eyes shaped like lotus petals, and then just a singular orange flame. Nothing else is there. This bhajan is composed in the ragam Gambhira Natte, and the wording of this bhajan is Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Gambhira meaning the royal one. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Gambhira Partishwara. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Prema Hridaya Sanchara Saisha. Prema Hridaya Sanchara Saisha. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. Gana Vilola Ananda Rupa. Gana Vilola Ananda Rupa. Mangala Karahi Prashanti Nivasa. Mangala Karahi Prashanti Nivasa. Prema Hridaya Sanchara Saisha. Prema Hridaya Sanchara Saisha. Prema Hridaya Sanchara Saisha. Guna Gambhira Partishwara. And when we enter Parti, when we enter the ashram, we see Ganesha at the front gate. Though he is the Vignaharata, in Parti he serves as the Dwarapalaka, the caretaker of the gate to Parti. And so one time, right after this COVID pandemic, in July 2020, we were supposed to travel to Parti for the International Leadership Program and all these beautiful programs. And in July, we had the pandemic and we were all stuck at home, and I was really missing going to Puttaparthi. And I was visualizing the Ganesha at the gate, the Ganesh gate in the front. And suddenly, it was on Guru Purnima of 2020, and I was visualizing, that feeling of the trip when you leave the Bangalore airport and you're going down National Highway 7 and you reach the main cross and you make that left turn and you enter, you see the Gopuram in the distance, and then when you finally enter, you see Ganesha passing by on your left at the gate. And so, while there are many beautiful Ganesh bhajans, this was a Ganesh bhajan composed specifically about that Ganesha at that gate. And so it's as if Ganesha himself is talking to us. He introduces himself. Gauri Nandana Vishwanatha Sutta Skandagraja Shri Gananatha. He introduces himself. I am Ganesha. I am the son of Mother Parvati and Lord Shiva, and my brother is Skanda. And then he says, my vehicle is the Mushika, the mouse. And then he finally declares himself saying, yes, I am the Dwarapalaka of Prashantindim. Gauri Nandana Vishwanatha Sutta Skandagraja Shri Gananatha. Gauri Nandana Vishwanatha Sutta Skandagraja Shri Gananatha. Mushika Sevita Vakratunda. Mushika Sevita Vakratunda. Lambodare Shri Vignanashaka. Lambodare Shri Vignanashaka. Prashanti Nilaya Dwarapalaka. Prashanti Nilaya Dwarapalaka. Gauri Nandana Vishwanatha Sutta Skandagraja Shri Gananatha. And then when we enter Sai Kulvanthal, of course, now there is the Sannidhi on the veranda. But prior, there used to be a Ganesha statue right behind where Swami used to sit. And so right after this, Swami inspired this bhajan. Another bhajan followed soon after. This one specifically about the Ganesha in Sai Kulvanthal. सुंदर मंगल गंभीर गणपति सुंदर मंगल गंभीर गणपति शिव शक्ति नंदन बाल गणेश शिव शक्ति नंदन बाल विघ्न हरण प्रभु मूषिक वाहन विघ्न हरण प्रभु मूषिक वाहन रिद्धि सिद्धि वल्लभ गणनायक रिद्धि सिद्धि वल्लभ गणनायक पाशांकुश लंबोदर देवा पाशांकुश लंबोदर देवा सभापति पुट्टपर्ति गणेशा सभापति पुट्टपर्ति गणेशा सभापति पुट्टपर्ति गणेशा सभापति पुट्टपर्ति गणेशा सुंदर मंगल गंभीर गणपति Sundara Mangala, the beautiful, the auspicious Ganapati, Gambhira, the royal one. And then there's that line, Riddhi Siddhi Vallabha Gananayaka. If you remember the Ganesha that used to be on the veranda, there were two statues of two women side by side that were holding lamps. I visualized those as Riddhi and Siddhi, Ganesha's consorts. And so I included their names in this bhajan. And then the last line, Sabhapati. Sabhapati means the one who rules over the Sabha or the assembly. So he's the Puttaparthi Sabhapati. He rules over the assembly of Puttaparthi. And so through these bhajans, though, now we can't see Swami's form, for me personally, whenever these bhajans come, whenever I've tried to sit and compose a bhajan from my own volition, it has never worked out. It is only when Swami wills, and it is purely in those moments, which is why it is very wrong to say that I have composed these bhajans or Siddhartha has composed these bhajans. It's truly because Swami willed, and when he wills, that these bhajans are born. I like to believe that all the Sai bhajans that have existed, currently exist, and will exist in the future, all exist in the ether, and it is Swami that decides to rip them, pull them out one by one, and send them to this earth so that we can learn them and sing his glory. You may all be familiar with the story of Dhruva, the young prince who vied to sit on the lap of his father, and because of a conflict between the two co-queens, he was unable to do so. And so his biological mother sends him to the forest to do penance, and he chants Narayana, Narayana. He's only 4 or 5 years old. He knows nothing. And he goes to the forest chanting the name of Vishnu. And finally Vishnu appears before him. And Vishnu says, child, ask for what you wish for. And all he asks is for God's love, Vishnu's love. And Vishnu commands him, sing, praise me, sing my glories. And this young child knows nothing. Vishnu has to take his Panchajanya conch, hold it to Dhruva's ear, and that's how the Purusha Suktam, Sahasra Shirasa Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad, was born, because Vishnu held the conch to Dhruva's ear. Dhruva said, I only have the alphabet to praise you, Lord. I don't know. Vishnu said, fine, sing the alphabet. I will create that alphabet. And he held that. I will take that alphabet, turn it into the Purusha Suktam. He held the conch to Dhruva's ear, and the Purusha Suktam was born. It is exactly that same emotion that is felt, not just by myself or Siddhartha, but I'm sure by every single composer of Sai bhajans. That is why Sai bhajans in particular are so unique. That brings us to the next phase of this journey. Forever in my hands, your work will always be. Forever in my eyes, your form will always be. And forever on my lips, your name will always be. We, on this Aradhana Mahotsavam, we always praise Swami for all the wonderful institutions, hospitals, organizations that he has started. Let us not forget that this institution of Sai Bhajans is a institutionalized genre of music that has been single-handedly been created by Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba himself. To my knowledge, There is not a single genre of music in the entire universe wherein every single line and every single word is echoed by the congregation. It is truly a congregational exercise. The most important individual in a bhajan session is the chorus singer. And the most important instrument in a bhajan session, and I humbly say this as a tabla player myself, is the hands that clap. Because when we clap our hands, and I'm sure you've heard this multiple number of times, our mind is like a tree with birds on it. And when we go for Suprabhatam in the morning, and there are all these birds on the trees that are making noise, and we clap, all the birds fly away. The birds on our mind, the tree of our mind, are these distracting thoughts that continue to bother us, torment us, and when we clap, they all fly away, and we find communion with Swami. Our hands have pressure points. In Ayurveda, we talk about marma theory. You press certain pressure points to heal certain parts of your body. And when we clap during bhajans, while chanting the divine healing name, we are pressing every single pressure point on our hands and giving physical healing to our bodies. And so clapping and singing during a bhajan session is the greatest service one can do. Sai bhajan itself is seva. When we sing bhajans, we always, we have all these axioms, right? Like I said earlier, you do my work, I will do your work. Oh, when we sing bhajans, the vibrations permeate through the entire cosmos. Yes, we say this. We read this at, before every global Akhanda bhajan. And that's, from a scientific perspective, that is so true, because the way you're able to hear me right now is that the atoms of hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen in front of these speakers are moving in a specific waveform. That movement is touching your eardrum is physically moving, which is then translated by your brain into the signal of sound. And so when we sing, these physical vibrations of these atoms of air moving truly permeate throughout the atmosphere. And so let us take every opportunity we have to sing Swami's glory. By the World Health Organization standards, the average human lifespan is about 80 years. And in 10th grade, when I was taking pre-calculus, we had to do like a little pre-calculus project on real-world life applications. And I decided to do mine about Sai bhajans. And so I went to like multiple bhajan sessions. I made like speed graphs of like, I took a metronome and like did speed graphs on like the BPM, like beats per minute speeds of all the bhajans. I talked about like the check mark format that we'd have when we organize bhajan sessions. And one of the things was calculating the average length of a Sai bhajan. And the answer that I came about, including the very occasional alap and third speed, fourth speed, is about 3.75 minutes. And so if you take the human lifespan, which is about 80 years in the West, and you multiply that by 525,600 minutes, because that's how many minutes there are in a year. There's that beautiful song from that musical Rent. Have any of you seen? I'm not sure if 525,600 minutes. How do you measure in love? Why measure in love? Measure in Sai bhajans. 525,600 minutes times 80 divided by 3.75, sorry for the math lesson, is about 11.2 million, 11,200,000. And so this lifetime that Swami has given us is not just 80 years, it is 11.2 million chances to sing the glory of Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. How many of those chances we take on is the onus lies on us. So let us always continue to chant this divine name. And when we have this pure desire to sing Swami's glory, he always fulfills it. In 2016, when we were there for the World Young Adult Festival, I was part of the bhajan group, and me and my friend, Brother Sai Santosh Srinivasan, were supposed to sing this bhajan, Namami Brahma, Namami Vishnu, Namami Maheshwara. And it was slotted as the fourth bhajan in the second day's evening session. And the priest came and did arti after the third bhajan. Third day morning, it was again put as the fourth bhajan. And after the third bhajan, again priest came and did arti. And the same story repeated a third time on the evening of the third day. And the festival was done, Jai Sai Ram. We came back home. 3 years later, in 2019, I had the opportunity to coordinate the Sri Sathya Sai International Leadership Program's graduation music offering in Sai Kulwanthala. And I had been asking, the IYAC, brother, I know we're doing this music offering, but after that, when the certificates are being distributed, can we please also do the bhajans? They were like, no, let the Prashanti Bhajan group sing because we'll be busy with the music offering, this and that. I was given so many excuses, but I was adamant. I'm like, no, please. Then they said, fine, focus on the music program. That's what we're here for. And we'll evaluate, 1 or 2 days before and see how the music program is going. And if it's going well, up to the mark, then we can consider potentially doing bhajans. And so just 2 days before the offering, we were practicing in one of the sheds. And the Prashanti Council and other senior leaders came to review the practice. And during that practice, we were singing. It was so ironic because we were practicing the song, Siya hamba ku kanyang kwenkos, Siya hamba ku kanyang kwenkos. We are marching in the light of Sai. We are marching and the lights go out because power outage and rainstorm. And I got so nervous. I'm like, we have to, because my mind, yes, music program was important, but my mind was constantly on that bhajan session. That was the cherry on the top. And I'm like, oh God, we lost power. The drum kits are not working. And now the seniors are going to think this music offering is not coming together. And we won't have opportunity to sing bhajans. And I started getting so tense. But those few minutes when the power was out, and Amar was sitting there in the hall at that time, was such powerful music. And everyone started clapping and singing together in one voice in unity. And, with Swami's grace, the seniors approved of the program. And then, yes, we did have the opportunity to sing bhajans. And so we quickly gathered and made a bhajan list. And so my favorite bhajan, as many of you might know, is Shambho Shankar Deva. And so I was going to sing that bhajan. I had put that on for myself on the list with another brother that I was singing with. And that very morning, the nursing college students had done a gratitude program and they sang the same bhajan. So I had to change it. I'm sure, had I sang that, but I have never gotten through that bhajan without shedding tears. So I think Swami just saved me from public humiliation by sobbing over the mics in Sai Kulwanthala, by preventing me from singing that bhajan that day. But anyways, getting to the point, I sang, I was going to sing Vaheguru, Vaheguru, and then we were in the bhajan session, and then we had planned for about 6 or 7 bhajans, and we thought we were getting to the end of the session when suddenly there was a surprise distribution of safari cloths for the boys and saris for the girls, and we had to continue the bhajans. And so we quickly huddled and made additional bhajan selections. And in that session, with the merry-go-round that we were doing between the singing pairs on the boys' side, I ended up singing 3 bhajans in that one session with this brother in that session. And after everything was said and done, I go back home and I'm listening to the session at the gym one night, and it struck me then. In 2016, I was denied the opportunity to sing 3 times. 2019, exactly 3 years later, Swami fulfilled that wish to sing in his presence, and lo and behold, it was right before the pandemic, and after that, the opportunity to go back to Patti and sing is completely uncertain at this point. And so he truly, fulfilled that wish. And so when his name is on our lips, when we want to sing his glory, he will always give us the opportunity to sing. I like to say there is a Sai bhajan out there for everybody. There are Sai bhajans is this genre of music that encompasses all other genres of music, all different levels of musicality. And so I encourage each and every one of you, Torontoyorksai Center's bhajans are renowned around the world. At my center at Jersey City, we try to model even 10% of the bhajan quality that is here at Toronto York. And you have such wonderful resources. Singing Sai bhajans is the greatest gift that we have. Sai bhajans are so short that we can memorize them in small chunks. I know we show the lyrics on the screens, but that's just for the congregation. The lead singers should be able to memorize the bhajans because when we learn psychology, we talk about chunk memorization. If I were to give you a string of 10 numbers, 201-653-8609, you probably wouldn't remember it. But if I broke it up into chunks, 201-653-8609, you're more likely to remember it. And so bhajans are these small little chunks of information, of divine information that are stored. And when we listen to them and we learn them, they become ingrained in our mind. As Sai devotees, I'm sure all of you seated in this hall have by heart at least 100 bhajans. Because of this unique design that Swami has built, he has built this genre of music. This is something so grand. We talk about classical music, jazz, R&B, rock, when you have so many different people. Like Indian classical music has a history of thousands of years. People like Tansen, and then in the south you have Tyagaraja, and so many different composers come together to create genres of music. In our case, Swami single-handedly, yes, hospitals, schools, everything is a gift to humanity, but we have to realize that this gift of Sai bhajans that Swami has given us is something unique to this international Sai family that we are all a part of. That is the beauty of forever having his name on our lips. And finally, when we come to talking about always having Swami's love in our hearts, forever in my heart, your love will always be. When I started this talk, I addressed Swami as my guru, God, and best friend. Of course, as a relationship between a guru and a disciple is completely unconditional. And that is the most beautiful relationship that we can have. And as God, of course, he is the unfathomable, supreme personality of Godhead. But in the Navaveda Bhakti, I know you guys have just had a study circle on this yesterday, and Sakhyam, friendship, is the penultimate stage of devotion to God. And when we take Swami as our constant companion, I know I sometimes take it to a very funny extreme. Like when I'm driving alone, I like to imagine that Swami is seated beside me, and sometimes I even put a handkerchief for him on the passenger seat because I like to feel his presence. Yes, it might take a handkerchief, it might take a cushion, whatever it takes, whether it's a mental reminder or a physical reminder or a musical reminder, let us always continue to have Swami as our best friend. I'd like to end with one final very funny incident about how Swami has shown his companionship and friendship with me. Just very recently, on Valentine's Day, I had the opportunity to do a satsang at one of the Sai centers in New York, and satsang was on a Sunday, similar to this, and that Friday I was sitting in my office at work, trying to think of what I was going to say, and suddenly I was getting distracted from my office work, and suddenly one of the senior quality assurance folks comes into my office to ask me a question to approve some report that had to be signed. And so we exchanged pleasantries and talked about the project at hand. And then he said, I'm going to send you a report in your email, just sign off on it in the DocuSign system, and then we'll be set. It was a FDA data release. And after we had our discussion, then he stopped to ask me, Rushi, like, what is it that drives you? What is it that, how did you, progress to becoming a supervisor at a young age? How do you keep your team at work so engaged? And, how are you able to do all of this at a young age, in this corporate world? And I hesitated a bit because the first thought was, yes, of course, Swami and his grace and, at least trying to follow some of his teachings. Swami's teachings are so simple. He has never given us, there are so many different paths, many religious paths that have so many difficult rules, fasting and maintaining certain diets like not eating onion, not eating garlic. And yes, while all of these are wonderful spiritual practices, Swami expected so little of us. All of his teachings were never commandments, but they were always guidelines and recommendations, and all of his teachings are always so simple and so full of love. All he wanted us to do was to just love all and serve all and be happy. I don't remember the exact reference, but when Swami was asked one time, what is the main duty of a Sai devotee? And Swami just answered, be happy. That is the only duty that we have. So going back to this incident, I hesitated a bit. I'm like, should I mention Swami? Should I not mention Swami? But then I was like, you know what, fine, I'll mention, because I have a picture of Swami in my office. And so I pointed to Swami, I said, this is my spiritual teacher, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I'm a part of his organization, and I had my water bottle at work has the SSSIO logo on it, so I showed him like the 5 human values, and we had a wonderful conversation, and talked about Swami, and he left my office, and then I was still doubting a little bit, like, did I do the right thing? Was I really supposed to talk about Swami? And then he had sent me a report to approve in my email, and I opened the email, and every report we had assigned it a 6-digit report number, and lo and behold, the report number on this guy was 112326. And so I knew in that moment that talking about Swami was, in fact, the right thing to do. And yes, Swami has always said, samayam and sandarbham, the time and circumstance in which we are placed, is always very important to keep in mind. But when we talk about Sri Sathya Sai Baba, it's not something to be shy of. It's not something to be afraid of. One time Swami was having a session in Trai Brindavan with the students, and a senior was speaking, and he said, oh, we have done good karmas and hundreds of janmas in the past, which is why we are sitting here in the divine presence of Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. After his talk, Swami took the mic and said, this gentleman has said that you have done karma of many good lives, and that is why you are in my presence. Swami himself declared that this name and form of Sri Sathya Sai is so powerful and so grand that just by hearing Sairam once, all of that punya of our previous lives and of all our ancestors is exhausted, because that is the beauty, that is the power of the name of the Paripurna Parabrahma Avatar Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And so when we talk about Swami, just imagine for a second, it may not be about talking about him or I'm not saying we should go out and proselytize Swami or evangelize his teachings, but just imagine when just his name falls on someone's ears, we are giving that person the gift of millions of lifetimes of their ancestors. And so we are Sai devotees, we are his chosen ones, because as he himself has said, when we said yes to him, we gave up the right to be like everyone else. And so on this Aradhana day, about 9 years ago now, actually. Again, this was a very difficult time for me. It was in high school, and I had a lot of other family trauma going on as well around this time, exactly around the time when Swami had passed away. And so it's always been very difficult for me to get through this day. And so 2 years after Swami's Samadhi, I was again talking to my brother Siddharth, and we wanted to write a song that encapsulated that emotion of missing Swami, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, missing Swami is such a beautiful feeling, because you're missing something that is already in your hearts, and all we have to do is look for him within the inner recesses of our hearts, because we are truly always one with him. And so we were trying to write this song, and we had some elements about Swami and his hair and his smile, and then Siddharth, and the song really wasn't gelling, like I mentioned, right? When we decide to compose something out of our own volition, it never works. But some inspiration strikes, Swami gives some kind of love from somewhere, and these songs, these bhajans are born. And so my friend Siddharth's mom suggested, why don't you guys put a Krishna twist to this bhajan? Krishna is the avatar of love. He is, he's the playful Lord. And so bringing Krishna into this song, added more beauty. And so his mother suggested some lyrics, and Siddharth and I came together to write this song, which was, we had the opportunity to offer this to Swami in Sai Kulbanthal during the 2019 music offering. So I'd like to conclude the satsang with this song.
पल पल गाओ तेरो नाम Krishna I call to you हर पल लगाओ तेरो नाम Krishna I call to you Sundar Rupaya O Sai Krishna I yearn for you Ati Sundar Rupaya O Sai Krishna I yearn for you Radhe Govinda Krishna Mukunda Radhe Govinda Nanda ki chanda Murli I sing for you Murli I sing for you Oh Shama Bhuti I am to you Oh Shama Bhuti I am to you Charanon mein tere mit jao Shyam Let me be one with you Charanon mein tere mit jao Shyam Let me be one with you Govinda Mukunda Gopala Ghanshyama Dina Dayala Oh Lord of Radha and Meera Dance with me Rasalila Govinda Mukunda Gopala Ghanshyama Dina Dayala Dance with me Rasalila Oh Lord of Radha and Meera Radhe Govinda Radhe Gopala Krishna I call to you Mere Radhe Govinda Radhe Gopala Krishna I yearn for you Oh Sai let me be one with you Oh Sai let me be one with you Jai Bolo Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai
Let's give him another round of applause while I figure out what to say. What a way to come back to the center after so long. You have me reliving so many of our times in Parthi over the last several years before the pandemic. That's why I'm also choked up, especially that last song. I didn't know you were going to end with that, otherwise I wouldn't be doing the vote of thanks. Rishi, on behalf of the whole center, thank you so much for coming. It was only 75 minutes, but I think it felt like it was an incredible talk. Thank you so much. And thank you, Swami, for bringing the Bhajan Hanuman to us today. On behalf of the center, I'd like to call Uncle Dayal Mirchandani to offer the vote of thanks to Rishi. And I think for almost everybody, Uncle Dayal needs no introduction, but I know that there are a number of new brothers and sisters here with us today. So for those who don't know, Uncle Dayal is a pillar of the center, and he's the chair of the trust of the Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center, Torontoyorksai. So Uncle Dayal, please come forward, and Rishi, if you can please come forward to accept this small token for appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Amar, for that introduction, and really appreciate. I offer my pranams at the lotus feet of my parents, gave birth to me and raised me to the level of being human being, good human being, also bringing me to the mission of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I shall always be indebted to them as long as I live. I also offer my loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. With his continuous guidance and unconditional love, we are here at his place of worship, enjoying fruits of our karma with his blessing. Om Shri Sai Ram to each and every one of you. It gives me a pleasure to see you all personally at your home here, which has been closed for a long time due to the circumstances beyond our control. Now that situations are improving, and since last few weeks, center is open softly, taking precautions, our President, Brother Sudhakar, along with his team of executive and young adults, making sure our protocols are followed to ensure safety for all of us. Please do continue visiting center in person to enjoy his weekly glory. First of all, on behalf of trustees, I wish to convey our sincere thanks to Brother Sudhakar and his whole team for doing an excellent job in making sure our present at center every Sunday since its opening 3-4 weeks ago is safe and healthy. Today, nice to see you all here celebrating Aradhana in person in Swami's presence. Taking this opportunity, conveying our sincere thanks to Rishi, who has been kind enough to take some time off from his busy schedule and be with us sharing his experiences with Swami. We are grateful for his visit and shall always cherish these memories. And we all enjoyed today. Let us give them another big round of applause. To my understanding, today is the first day after nearly 2 years our center kitchen is open and served a delicious breakfast. If all goes well, we shall continue enjoying such meals on more occasions during this year. Sincere thanks to our dedicated kitchen team members who have always made sure that we all have sufficient food to eat. I would like to share a beautiful quote with you on karmas. It goes this way. After Sri Krishna killed Kansa, he went to the jail to release Vasudeva and Devaki, his mother and father. Devaki Mata asked eagerly, "Child, you are a god yourself and you have divine powers. Then why did you wait 14 years to kill Kansa and release us?" Shri Krishna replied, "Respected mother, forgive me. But why did you send me to the jungle for 14 years in my last birth?" Devaki was very surprised and said, "Krishna, how is this possible? Why are you saying this?" Shri Krishna replied, "Mother, you will not remember anything about your previous birth, but you were Kekai in your last birth, and your husband was Dasharath." Devaki was very surprised, asked curiously, "Then who is Kaushalya now?" Shri Krishna replied, "Mother Yashoda. The 14 years of mother's love that she was deprived of in her last life, she got it in this life. Everyone has to bear the fruits of their karma. Even the gods cannot escape it. Keep an eye what karmas you want to accumulate. So this is a very important karma we normally, and finally, in closing, I like to share. Happiness always looks small if you hold it in your hands. But when you lean to share it, you realize how big and precious it is. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Thank you, Uncle Dayal. Now everyone, please stay seated. Now I'm very excited to share that we have a 10-minute program by our SSE, which will start off with a discourse followed by a video presentation. Following that, we will take a 10-minute break and then reconvene here at 11:10, and we will commence the satsang at that time. So 10 minutes for SSE presentation, 10-minute break, and satsang at 11:10. Thank you. Om Shri Sai Ram.
My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Om Shri Sai Ram. My name is Anjali, and I am in Group 4. Today's discourse is titled, The Message of Love. It was delivered by Swami in Prashanti Nilayam on November 23rd, 1975. Swami says, in creation, in the objective world, no one article is like any other. No two human beings are similar in every respect. There is some twist or turn which distinguishes one from the rest. Each has his own peculiar experiences. Immense diversity prevails. Nor is an individual the same for any length of time. The infant changes into a child, then into a boy, an adolescent, an adult, and soon becomes middle-aged, old, decrepit, and finally senile. In one single day, the individual is changed into a wakeful person, a dreamer, and a sleeping log. So man must seek refuge in the changeless, the Paramatman, the supreme reality, from which all variety emerges, and into which it merges. Then only can be secure peace and contentment. The past is past. Do not lose time looking back on the road you have traversed. Look forward, deciding to march on with confidence and courage. Take the first step now. Tomorrow may be too late. Repeat to yourself the truth that the world is as much God as heaven is. There are no two distinct entities or categories called material and spiritual. All distinctions are apparent, not real. Sai has drawn the old and the young to himself, and every one of them has Sai in his heart. The scriptures of different creeds, the Bible, the Quran, the Upanishads, appear different, but their aim is the same: to establish the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God as the basis for the peace of mankind. No creed need put on airs of superiority, as each is shaped by the compulsions of time and space, of language and levels of experience. You are all members of the Sai family, bound by the religion of love. Though ostensibly you profess to belong to different faiths, faith in Sai has removed the barriers in your minds. Love is God. Live in love. Your Atman, which you mistake to be your body, your senses, your mind, your intellect, can have no sorrow or joy. It has no death, no birth. It is eternal and unchanging. What you judge as joy or sorrow is only like a passing cloud which cannot affect the splendor of the sun or moon. Know that such emotions follow one another when the wheel of life turns round from moment to moment. The sea has water that cannot quench thirst, but it has also pearl and coral. You have to get toughened by the hammer strokes of joy and sorrow until you are unaffected by the vicissitudes of fortune. Adore man, the adoration reaches me. Neglect man, you neglect me. Of what avail is it to worship the Lord and to suppress man, his counterpart? Love for God must be manifested as love for man, and love must express itself as service. Through love alone, love acquired through sadhana and shared with all as sadhana, can peace be attained by the individual as well as by the nation. My life is my message, and my message is love. Om Shri Sahaveeryam.
Because when I think of him, I feel safe. Swami is my favorite God because he protects me. Swami is my best friend forever, and Swami represents love. Swami helped me with my surgery, and now I walk better. I love Swami because he's always there for me. Swami protects me in whatever I do. I love Swami because he always takes my bad spirits and my bad habits. Swami is God to me. Swami is a friend to me. I love Swami because he is everything for me. He has given me everything. Swami is the destroyer of virus and the creator of medicine. He is the good in our hearts.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांति।
Om Shri Sairam. We will start satsang at 11:15, so in 4 minutes. Everyone that's in the rec room in the hallway, if you can please make your way inside, and we will start satsang in 4 minutes. Thank you. Om Shri Sairam.
चाहिए साईं हमें, बस चाहिए एक प्यार तेरा। अब कुछ न चाहिए साईं हमें, बस चाहिए एक प्यार तेरा। तेरे प्यार में ही मिलती है हर चाहत की बहार हमें, हर चाहत की बहार हमें। हम तेरे हैं साईं, हम तेरे हैं, हम तेरे हैं साईं, हम तेरे हैं। बदल जाए जहाँ, धरती बने चाहे आसमां। चाहे बदल जाए जहाँ, धरती बने चाहे आसमां। हम सदा तेरे साथ रहेंगे प्यार की नगरी में, सदा प्यार की नगरी में सदा। हम तेरे हैं साईं, हम तेरे हैं, हम तेरे हैं साईं, राग है, हल्की आवाज है, होठों पे बस यही राग है। हम तेरे साई, हम तेरे हैं, 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 हम तेरे हैं, हम तेरे
ఏదో కొన్ని వస్తుంటాయి ప్రపంచంలో,
In this world, certain things do happen.
ఇవన్నీ జరుగుతూనే ఉంటున్నాయి ఇప్పుడు కూడా.
They go on happening even now.
కానీ ఆ ఫెయిత్ ఒకటి పెట్టుకుంటే అన్నిటినీ ఖండించేస్తుంది.
But when once you have faith, you'll be able to face any kind of situation.
కేవలం జీసస్ కూడాను చిన్న బాలుడు కాదు
Jesus is not an ordinary boy.
కనుక ఇప్పుడు ఈ దేహాన్ని కూడాను ఆర్డినరీ మ్యాన్ అనుకుంటున్నారు.
We think that Bhagavan is an ordinary man.
ఇది నా దేహం కాదు,
I'm not the body.
నేను ధరించినటువంటి ఒక తిత్తి.
It is only the vesture I have put on.
కనుక దీని లోపల తానే ఉండి అన్నీ సాధిస్తున్నాడు.
In fact, God in me is achieving everything.
ఆ ఫెయిత్ లోపల ప్రేమను తీసుకోండి.
And in this faith, and see that you grow in love.
మీరే నేను, నేనే మీరు.
Bhagavan says, I am you, you and I are one.
ఎవరిని మనము సామాన్యమైన మానవుని చూసినా వాళ్ళు దేవుణ్ణి చూసి.
Never consider anyone ordinary. Everyone is divine.
ఒకటే ఒకటి మమై వాంశో జీవలోకి జీవభూత సనాతన. మీరందరూ కూడా అంశండి.
You are all the sparks of the divine. You are all the sparks of God.
కనుక నేను మీరు ఒకటి.
Therefore, Bhagavan and you are one and the same.
మీరు వేరు, నేను వేరు కాదు.
You are not separate from Bhagavan. Bhagavan is not separate from you.
కనుక ఇట్టి ఏకాభావం పెట్టుకుని ఆనందంగా కాలం గడపండి.
With this feeling of oneness, total identification with Bhagavan, lead your life happily and blissfully.
అర్థమైందా? పోతానే స్వామి అక్కడ ఉన్నాడు, మేము ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాము అని అనుకోవద్దండి.
The moment Swami leaves the dais, don't think that Bhagavan is there and that you are here apart from him, separate from him.
He is with me.
Swami,
He is with me.
have the feeling that Bhagavan is with me.
In me.
He is in me,
Around me.
around me,
Above me.
above me,
Below me.
below me.
ఇంత ఒక్కటే.
Everything is one in fact.
నాకు మీకు డైరెక్ట్ కనెక్షన్ ఉంటుండది.
There is direct connection between you and Bhagavan.
మన సన్నిహిత సంబంధ బాంధవ్యం ఎవ్వరూ తెంచడానికి వీలు కాదు.
None can break this permanent, intimate, connecting
మీరు
link.
ఎక్కడికన్నా పోండి,
You may go
అక్కడ
anywhere.
ఇక్కడ ఎక్కడ చూసిన ఒక్కడి సాయి మక్కువై ఉన్నాడు.
You may see here or there, anywhere, only one Sai is there.
మీరు ఏ గ్రామం పోయినా కూడాను, ఎక్కడ పోయి మీ ఉద్యోగం చేసినా మీ వెంటనే జంటనే ఇంటనే ఉంటాను.
You may go to any village, you may take up a job anywhere, but Bhagavan is always with you.
ఆ భావాన్ని మాత్రం మీరు భద్రంగా చేసుకోండి.
Treasure that feeling, that
నా
thought.
వెంటనే ఉన్నాడు
Swami is with me.
అనేటువంటి భావాన్ని దృఢం చేసుకోండి.
Strengthen that thought more and
నువ్వు
more.
ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళినా నీ నీడ వస్తుండదు కదా.
Your shadow follows you wherever you go.
నేను నీడనే.
Bhagavan is your shadow.
నాట్ షాడో. నీలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఒక దీన్నే దాన్ని నిరూపిస్తూ ఉంటాడు.
Not merely shadow, he is indweller, he is in you.
కనుక I am you, you are mine.
Oh, Swami says, I am you and you are mine.
ఈ రెండింటి సంబంధాన్ని భద్రంగా పెంచుకోండి.
Treasure this feeling more and more, strengthen this.
शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं सर्वविघ्नो प्रशान्तये अगजानन पद्मार्कम् गजाननम् अहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तम् भक्तानाम् एकदन्तम् उपास्महे महागणपते नमोस्तुते महागणपते नमोस्तुते मातङ्गवदना नमोस्तुते मातङ्गवदना नमोस्तुते महागणपते नमोस्तुते आदिपूजिता गणनाथा आदिपूजिता गणनाथा आनन्ददायक गणनाथा आनन्ददायक गणनाथा प्रथम वन्दना प्रणवकारा प्रथम वन्दना प्रणवकारा विघ्नेश्वरा विनायका महागणपते नमोस्तुते मातङ्गवरना नमोस्तुते महागणपते नमोस्तुते आदिपूजिता गणनाथा आनन्ददायक गणनाथा प्रथम वन्दना प्रणवकारा विघ्नेश्वरा विनायका विघ्नेश्वरा विनायका महागणपते नमोस्तुते सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी पर्तिनिवासिनी परम शिवानी पर्तिनिवासिनी परम शिवानी पर्तिनिवासिनी परम शिवानी पर्तिनिवासिनी परम शिवानी सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी माता महेश्वरी दुर्गा भवानी माता महेश्वरी दुर्गा भवानी माता महेश्वरी दुर्गा भवानी माता महेश्वरी दुर्गा भवानी आदि पराशक्ति साई नारायणी आदि पराशक्ति साई नारायणी आदि पराशक्ति साई नारायणी आदि पराशक्ति साई नारायणी जगदोदारिणी भवभयहारिणी जगदोदारिणी भवभयहारिणी सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी पर्तिनिवासिनी परम शिवानी सर्वमङ्गला साई जननी माता महेश्वरी दुर्गा भवानी आदि पराशक्ति साई नारायणी जगदोदारिणी भवभयहारिणी जगदोदारिणी भवभयहारिणी सर्वकला साई जननी
दीनबांधवा बाबा दया सागरा दीनबांधवा
सुखदाई मन साई चरण सुखदाई मन साई चरण सुखदाई मन साई बिना जीना क्या है 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 साई चरण सुखदाई मन माता भी तू पिता भी तू माता भी तू पिता भी तू ओ भगवन दीजो दर्शन आओ भगवन दीजो दर्शन आओ भगवन दीजो दर्शन बस जाओ साई मन मंदिर में मन मंदिर से बस जाओ साई मन मंदिर में साई बिना जीना क्या है साई बिना जीना क्या है साई बिना जीना साई बिना जीना क्या है साई चरण मन साई बिना जीना क्या है साई बिना जीना क्या है साई चरण सुखदाई मन साई चरण सुखदाई मन माता भी तू पिता भी तू आओ भगवन दीजो दर्शन बस जाओ साई मन मंदिर में मन मंदिर से साई बिना जीना क्या है साई बिना साई बिना जीना क्या है साई बिना जीना क्या है साई चरण सुखदाई मन
विनोदिनी शिव साई शंकरी विनोदिनी शिव साई शंकरी शांब विनोदिनी शङ्करी
साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता सकल भुवन के दाता सकल भुवन के दाता सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता ओ साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता रूप मनोहर कमला कांता रूप मनोहर युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परती बाबा युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परती बाबा शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी प्रशांति सुंदर साई प्रशांति सुंदर साई साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन ओ साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता साई बाबा सकल भुवन के दाता रूप मनोहर कमला कांता युग अवतार साई बाबा दया करो परती बाबा शिरडी परती हृदय निवासी प्रशांति सुंदर साई प्रशांति सुंदर साई साई बाबा सकल भुवन जीवन के दाता।
साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। 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 रघुपति राघव राम हरे। रघुपति राघव राम हरे। राजीव लोचन हरे। राजीव लोचन श्यामा हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। भर्तिपुरीश्वर साई हरे। भर्तिपुरीश्वर साई हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। रघुपति राघव राम हरे। राजीव लोचन राम हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे। भर्तिपुरीश्वर साई हरे। भर्तिपुरीश्वर साई हरे। साई राम हरे साई कृष्ण हरे।
हे कमल नयन भगवान। हे कमल नयन भगवान। सत्य साई भगवान। हे सत्य साई भगवान। हे दीन जनों के प्राण। हे दीन जनों के प्राण। हे पतित पावन पावना सीताराम पतित पावना सीताराम पतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम पुटपतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम श्री साई राम जय जय राम श्री साई राम राम जय जय राम पुटपतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम पुटपतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम हे दीन जनों के प्राण हे दीन जनों के प्राण हे कमल नयन भगवान सत्य साई भगवान हे दीन जनों के प्राण हे पतित पावना सीताराम पतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम श्री साई राम जय जय राम श्री साई राम राम जय जय राम पतिपुरीश्वर श्री साई राम हे दीन जनों के प्राण Bhagawan Sai नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा करुणा भरना भव भय हरणा 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 पावन चरणा पतित जनावना पतित जनावना नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा करुणा भरना भव भय हरणा करुणा भरना भव भय हरणा पावन चरणा पतित जनावना पावन चरणा पतित जनावना नारायण हरि नारायण नारायण हरि नारायण नारायण साई नारायण नारायण साई नारायण नारायण हरि नाम भजो रे नारायण विद पारायणा
जय हो साई राम जय हो साई राम
साई राम हे इंदुशेखरा राजा शिवराजा शंकरा हे इंदुशेखरा राजा शिवराजा शंकरा हे चंद्रशेखरा शंभो शिवराजा शंकरा हे चंद्रशेखरा शंभो शिवराजा शंकरा शेखरा राजा शिवराजा शंकरा हे हर हर शिव शिव पिनाक वैभव राजा शंकरा हे हर हर शिव शिव पिनाक वैभव राजा शंकरा शिवराजा शंकरा साई राजा शंकरा हे इंदुशेखरा राजा शिवराजा शंकरा हे चंद्रशेखरा शंभो शिवराजा शंकरा हे हर हर शिव शिव पिनाक वैभव राजा शंकरा शिवराजा शंकरा साई राजा शंकरा शेखरा राजा शिवराजा शंकरा
विठला हरि विठला विठला हरि विठला पुरन्दर विठले हरिनारायण हरिनारायण भजो नारायण साई नारायण सत्यनारायण विठ्ठला हरि विठ्ठला विठ्ठला हरि विठ्ठला विठ्ठला हरि विठ्ठला पांडुरंग विठ्ठले हरि नारायण पुरंदर विठ्ठले हरि नारायण हरि नारायण भज नारायण साई नारायण सत्यनारायण विठ्ठल विठ्ठल विठ्ठले हरि नारायण विठ्ठल विठ्ठल विठ्ठले हरि नारायण हरि नारायण भज नारायण साई नारायण सत्यनारायण विठ्ठला हरि विठ्ठला
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं 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 साईनाथ भगवान
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि सत्य साई शरणं गच्छामि सत्य साई शरणं गच्छामि साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं
सत्यं शरणं गच्छामि सत्य साई शरणं गच्छामि सत्य साई शरणं गच्छामि साईनाथ भगवान साईनाथ भगवान
राम साई राम साई राम साई
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो, साई नाम बोलो साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो, साई नाम बोलो महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो,
महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो,
महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो, साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो,
नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो,
राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो,
कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो,
राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो,
कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो,
सौराष्ट्र महावीर येशु साई बोलो, सौराष्ट्र महावीर येशु साई बोलो, अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला साई बोलो, अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला साई बोलो, प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो, प्रेम दाई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो, साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो, महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो, साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो, राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो, सौराष्ट्र महावीर येशु साई बोलो, अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला साई बोलो, अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला साई बोलो, प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो, प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो, गोविंद बोलो गोपाल 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 बोलो, प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो।
हरि भजन बिना शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, जप ज्ञान बिना संयोग नहीं, जप ज्ञान बिना संयोग नहीं, प्रभु दर्श बिना ज्ञान नहीं, दय धर्म बिना सत्कर्म नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं। 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 हरि भजन बिना शांति 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 नहीं। हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं।
मोहब्बत की कमी दिल में अगर एहसास आता है, जरा जाको तो पाओगे कि साई पास होता है। ओ करिश्मा ये उसी का है कि दुनिया खूबसूरत लगती है, वरना आदमी तो आदमी क्या राज होता है। साईं बिन रान जाए, साईं बिन रान जाए, चैन नाए मोहे चैन नाए, चैन नाए मोहे चैन नाए, साईं बिन रान जाए, जब से देखा तुझको साई मेरे, दर्श के प्यासे नैना साँझ सवेरे जब से है देखा तुझको साँझ सवेरे, दर्श के प्यासे नैना साँझ सवेरे, मिट मर जाए तुझ पे हमसे न रूठे तू, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं, जिंदगी सौंप दे हम चरणों में तेरे यूं, मन मंदिर से जाओ न साई, मंदिर से जाओ न साई, चैन न आए मोहे चैन न आए, चैन न आए मोहे चैन न आए, साई बिन राह न जाए,
दिल मेरी धड़कन, तू ही है मंजिल मेरी,
तू ही है मंजिल मेरी, तू ही है मंजिल मेरी।
मेरा जीवन तेरा दर्शन, मेरी सब सांसें भी तेरी,
मेरी सब सांसें भी तेरी, मेरी सब सांसें भी तेरी।
तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन, तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन। अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, बस तमन्ना है ये मेरी। तुझ पे कुर्बान हो ये जीवन, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, अब तमन्ना है ये मेरी, बस तमन्ना है ये मेरी। साईं बिन राह न जाए, चैन नाए मोहे, चैन नाए,
चैन नाए मोहे, चैन नाए।
साईं बिन राह न जाए,
साईं बिन राह न जाए,
साईं बिन राह न जाए। ओम तत्सत् श्री नारायण तु पुरुषोत्तम गुरु तु सिद्ध भूत तु संग विनायक सविता पावक तु, सविता पावक तु। ब्रह्मवज्र तु यव शक्ति तु, यीशु पिता प्रभु तु, रुद्र विष्णु तु, राम कृष्ण तु, रहीमता हो तु, रहीमता हो तु। वासुदेव गो विश्वरूप तु, चिदानंद हरितु, अद्वितीय तु, अकाल निर्भय आत्मलिंग शिव तु, आत्मलिंग शिव तु, आत्मलिंग शिव तु। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, स्वामी सत्य साई हरे, भक्त जना संरक्षक, भक्त जना संरक्षक, परति महेश्वर। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। शशिवदना शेखरा सर्वा प्राणपते, स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते। आशत कल्पलतिका, आशत कल्पलतिका, आपन बांधवा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। मात पिता गुरुदेवं मणियन्तयो नीवे, स्वामी मणियन्तयो नीवे। नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ, नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ, नागेन्द्र शयन। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी साई महादेव, सत्य साई महादेव। मंगल आरती अंदुको, मंगल आरती अंदुको, मंदर गिरिधारी। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। नारायण नारायण ओम Satyanarayana Narayana Narayana Om Narayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Narayana Om Narayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Narayana Om Narayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Satyanarayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Paramam Pavitram Baba Vibhutim Paramam Vichitram Leela Vibhutim Paramartha Ishtata Moksha Pradatam Baba Vibhutim Idamasayami Sai Baba Vibhutim Idamasayami Sacred art, miraculous Baba's creation flowing from his blessing hand, holy creation, granting us the greatest wealth, God's divine protection. Beloved Baba, grant us liberation. Beloved Baba, grant us liberation. Beloved Baba, grant us liberation. Om Asato Ma Sagamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dear Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Om Jai Sai Ram. On behalf of the Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Toronto, a very warm welcome to each one of you present here and also present on our online platform. Swami, we thank you for a wonderful session this morning. After almost 2 years, we have this large gathering in the center. It's so heartwarming to see all of you. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, Swami, for bringing us from Zoom to this room. Thank you. Wow. What a way to kick off this event, this special event, Aradhana Mahotsavam. For those who were present this morning, since morning, we had the Suprabhatam, we had Nagar Sangeetan, we had the 108 names sitting as families and offering our pranams to Swami. And then we had a sumptuous breakfast. After that, we had even more sumptuous talk by Rishi Tanawala. I want to take this opportunity to thank him once again on behalf of the Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Toronto for taking time to come here and be amongst all of us on this very auspicious day. Thank you, Rishi, for sharing your experiences and insights on bhajan singing. I'm sure our YS who are present here will take a lot of those and put it into practice. Once again, on behalf of the Trust and all our executives, thank you very much. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all those involved and responsible for today's event. Amar, I want to thank you for hosting Rishi, as well as Sai Amrita for hosting Rishi, and being with him and taking care of his needs while he's in Toronto. Dayal Bhai for his words of wisdom, as usual, never fails. He's here to give us share his experience and guide us through. Thank you, Dayal Bhai, if you're here. Thank you very much. Today's program would not have been possible by the devoted efforts of our devotion wing, led by Brother Ashwin, or young adult Ashwin, and Pradeep and his team, the bhajan coordinators, Akash and his team as well, Sister Ranjini. They worked tirelessly to put this program together. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the efforts of our SSC coordinators, Sister Aparna and Sister Malati, and all their gurus. I'm sure you enjoyed that cute little presentation by our SSC children. A lot of hard work went into putting that presentation together. Thank you once again, Sister Aparna and Sister Malati, for doing that. And to our Seva team for setting up this beautiful hall for today's event, and to also set up the kitchen and all of the other areas where the Seva is involved. So thank you very much, our Seva teams led by Brother Manish and Mahesh Bhai. And our invisible team, our invincible team, BMG, they're always here, the building management group, led by Brother Vinod, Brother Nahin, and Brother Praful. For all the hard work, the altar you see, the preparations, the mic, the AV, all is then taken care of by the building management team. So thank you very much. They have been a big support of support during the COVID season as well. So they have been maintaining this room, this hall. So thank you, Brother Vinod and team. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the kitchen team. Literally after about 2 years, they are firing up the kitchen. So literally firing up the kitchen. So thanks to them. I, being an insurance guy, I don't like to use the word fire because it's a negative for me in my profession. But here I think it's a positive, because I'm sure you'll all would have enjoyed the delicious breakfast we had this morning. And please, if I forget, please partake the prasad while going out. We do have a takeout prepared by the kitchen team, so please do partake the prasad while going out. Today also has another significant day for us here in Canada. Over 100 provinces, municipalities have declared today, April 24th, as the Human Values Day. We have the human values flag flying high at the City Hall. We call it Nathan Phillips Square, and at the Sathya Sai School. And also there's special illuminations around the city with beautiful lighting. To name a few, we have Niagara Falls, and the CN Tower is being illuminated to honor the Human Values Day. And this would not have been possible without the dedicated efforts of our SSSIO National Walk for Values team, led by Brother Kesh. And we have Manish Bhai, who is also instrument in getting this. Ashwin, do we have the video? Can we play the video, please? This small video. Upcoming events, April 30th, we have the National Seva Workshop held by the SSSI, or National Wing Coordinators, Seva Coordinators. Those who are interested in participating, please contact me. I have the link, I can share it with you. In closing, after the Samastaloka is done, we can offer, people who want to offer flowers at the lotus feet of our Bhagawan, may please line up. Our Seva also will help you. Before you go out, you can just offer your petals to Swami. Let's pray for all the Russia-Ukraine war victims. They need our prayers more so now. It's been a prolonged war. Let's pray for their welfare. And let's pray that it ceases soon. I think that will be a better prayer than... And also those who are sick and suffering. We have a lot of our Sai brothers and sisters around the world who are sick and suffering because of COVID. Let's keep them in our mind before we close with the Samastaloka. Thank you once again. Please partake prasad while going out. And for those who are interested in offering flowers, please line up. Our Seva also will help you out. Jai Sai Ram, and have a safe week.
Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai.
Devaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satya Devaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satya Devaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satya Devaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satya Devaya dhimahi tanna sarva prachodayat. Om विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय 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 विद्महे
सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ